Hello and welcome back to another IN-4-AHA webinar. My name is Diogo from the University of Porto, the Competence Center for Active and Healthy Aging, Porto for Aging, and the IN-4-AHA consortium. So today we're here to showcase two commendable examples of best practices from active and healthy aging shared in Futurium during IN-4-AHA's Best Practices Month. For those who might still be unaware, Futurium is a communications platform developed by the European Commission, where stakeholders from different areas of knowledge can find a forum to share their events and news, as well as work and project outputs. The forum Active and Healthy Aging in the Digital World has been developed with the AHA community and features general page and 6 thematic sub-forums. Our consortium has taken the task of promoting this platform, hence the development of a second Good Practices Month. So during the month of April, Futurium users were encouraged to share their innovations for the prospect of having their best practices showcased in a webinar and in Futurium's quarterly newsletter. That being said, our first speaker is Inmaculada Luengo, Head of R&D from HI-IBERIA, and presenting WellCO, Wellbeing and Health Virtual Coach. Then, sorry if I misspell anything.
No, everything okay.
Thank you very much. Then we'll have the contribution of Clotilde Berghe, Head of Promotion, Jobs Training, and Laura Guérin, European Project Officer from Gérontopôle Nouvelle-Aquitaine. Again, sorry if I misspell anything. Presenting I-MANO, a training platform on innovative management and organization for home and care services managers to deliver better quality services to the elderly. And finally, some housekeeping notes. The session will be recorded and then uploaded to our social media channels. So if you're feeling shy, keep the camera off. Also keep the microphones muted during the presentation, and feel free to drop the questions in the chat box. And if you want to ask questions directly, please click on the little hand icon. And after the presentations, you'll have the opportunity to do just that and during the Q&A part. That being said, Inmaculada, thank you very much, and you can take the floor. Thank you.
Okay. So let me start sharing. Wait. Because I could not. It's not so easy. I will do the other way.
It's perfect now.
Okay. Okay, so thank you very much for the invitation. So I'm here to introduce you WellCO project, Wellbeing Coach for Behavior Change. So WellCO was an AIDS 2020 project that had finalized in 2021, and it was funded under the goal Personalized Medicine of AIDS 2020. So first of all, we are going to see, I hope you could listen to it, a quick video overview. Unhealthy behaviors like poor diet, physical inactivity, or smoking are the main accounting risk for preventable chronic conditions. To avoid them, different measures have been proposed along the years, but usually they require specific interventions and monitoring in order to be adapted as habits. WellCO objective is to provide personalized advice, guidance, and follow-up of users for the adoption of healthier behavior choices that help them to maintain or improve their health and well-being status. WellCO will focus the coaching process on the active establishment of personalized goals and pathways to each user through a dynamic modeling that takes into account a variety of factors, including health goals, health outcomes, monitoring of physical activity, vital signs, stress, sleep patterns, anxiety, depression, mental status, and the context of the users. With this purpose, WellCO project has defined a consortium of 8 partners from 5 different countries: Spain, Italy, Slovenia, Denmark, and the Netherlands. With this amazing consortium, we have built WellCO project.
Okay, so let's see a quick overview of the project achievements. So first of all, our aim is to build a WellCO virtual coach for training in well-being. So our objective is to provide personalized recommendation in order to motivate the user towards a behavior change for a healthier lifestyle. So these recommendations are provided around key age-related issues like nutrition, physical activity, vital signs, social inclusion, and mental health. And also the coach will be guided through the affective computing. So we will also analyze the emotional status of the user. We also include the interaction with informal caregivers and formal caregivers. So both will be involved in the recommendations and in the behavior change process. And this has been tested with 133 users in 3 different test trials, and at least 25% of the users improve in at least one aspect of their well-being, having into consideration that they were involved in a trial for just 5 months, which is not considered enough time really to have a change on the behavior. So what were the objectives and the scope of the project? So what we want is really to deal with the behavior change. So first of all, we need to understand the context around the people, the context of the user, and also provide personalized intervention in a way that could fit capabilities and opportunities. Because we have built, let's see, the proposal for the behavior change around the model of the behavior change wheel that really defines what are the main activities or the main interventions that could motivate this change of behavior. So in order to motivate the people, we have built social incentives, immediate rewards, and the progress monitoring of the user and the continuous support. So for understanding the context of the people, we have included sensors that provide information about the current status of the user. We have also included the life plan, which is a kind of resume of the beliefs of the person, the objectives, the daily life activities, hobbies, and desire. So the interventions are really focused on the needs of the user and on the daily habits. And also we included validated questionnaires in order to retrieve additional information, for example, from sleep, nutrition, and so on. And finally, we also, as we say, include the assessment of the emotional status of the user through the mobile camera and the speaker of their devices. So how we interpret this information we recover. So from the user monitoring, from the user information we have obtained, we obtain the nutritional status, the mental status, the physical health, and also a risk assessment of the user. And this together with the affective monitoring, we build the user status assessment, and we define which are the areas in which the user really needs to improve. So these ones in which we need to provide additional recommendations. And also we define a user dynamic modeling that allows us to detect the deviation from the normal patterns, and we could check also the progress of the user along these months. So with all of this information, we build different recommendations. So we have built different recommenders around these KH related issues like the nutrition, well-being, mental, social, emotional, and general recommendations. And they will be just sorted in order to show it to the user based on the preferences and based also on this status we have defined before. So what are the main needs of the user? Also, it's important to clarify that the trials were just carried out during COVID pandemic, just in 2020. So it was also some kind of difficult to have good results. In order to motivate people to follow this intervention, we have also tried to build different approaches. So we have the definition of the goals. So the user sets, really the WellCO provide them goals and they could accept them or not, for example, regarding steps or nutrition or whatever. So they receive notifications once the goals are reached, and also they are communicated through the social networks. They also receive the positive comments from the caregivers through the social network. and they could also check their progress monitoring and the visualization of what they have done along this project. So now we are going to see another video of how is the final prototype we have built.
It is wonderful to see you. What can I do for you? Exercise your spatial memory by changing itineraries in your daily life. Go a different way to the doctor's office or change the route to walk your dog. In this way your brain will be attentive to news.
How you like it? So now let's see a quick overview of the validation methodologies we have followed along this project. So first of all, we build the co-design of the mockup. So for this, we define the personas. We also define scenarios. We build the requirements and identify the user journeys in order to define the wireframes. That will be the initial step for the prototype. And we finally build the mockups. We will build the first prototype we will show to the users. Second step, the requirements gathering and analysis. As you could see, we built a lot of requirements, so it was difficult even to analyze them. And in the third step, we developed the first prototype and introduced it to the participants with the different devices and so on. Fourth step, we start the testing and evaluation and reporting for improvement based on this first prototype. These improvements were included in the second prototype, but we also start with the testing and reporting. And the final step was the development and testing and evaluation of this final prototype, that is the one we have just shown you. So this validation of the final prototype was developed in Denmark, Italy, and Spain. So in Spain, it was the trial coordinator was GSS. So they involved 54 users with age over 65, and they were from rural areas in Castilla y León in Spain. In Italy, the coordinator was FPK, and they involved also 54 users age over 65, and they were from urban areas in Trento. And finally, Denmark, which were involved through ESU. They were 27 people. These were younger people than in the other cases, from age between 55 and 65. And they were from rural and urban areas in Copenhagen and in the southern of Denmark. Finally, we are going to see how a user speak about the use of this prototype. It's in Italian, but it has subtitles for the translation.
E poi il fatto di avervi questa proposta, di aver avuto questa proposta della camminata, eccetera, eccetera, dico la verità è che per me è stato un toccasana, no? Perché poi ti nasce un orgoglio dentro e poi dimostrare che tutto sommato riesci a fare delle cose ancora, e sono state molto utili, dico la verità, perché altrimenti sarei beh, oggi non vado, oggi non ho voglia, oggi è freddo, oggi è caldo. E invece questo è stato un incentivo, e l'ho colto proprio come un incentivo, e visto anche sul piano della salute, perché ti tieni col movimento, eccetera, eccetera, ti tieni in forma. Difatti mi sembra di essere rinato da quando ho incominciato a fare queste camminate. Pertanto, tutto sommato, dico, è stata un'esperienza validissima.
So some final conclusions, as I said, the project has already ended. So we could determine that a longer use of the WellCO application will in fact provide a behavior change. As I said, we have this COVID pandemic in the middle of the validation of the trials. So finally, we were expected to have a longer trials, and we only could have 5 months trials. So it's not enough time really to have this behavior change. And moreover, after a pandemic situation where people were afraid of going out or having this kind of social interaction and so on. So with just 5 months, we obtained good results. So we think using longer the application, we will in fact improve the results. What we obtain is really to obtain a trend towards behavior change. So they increase their activity, they increase they improve their nutrition habits. So this with what it was possible because the behavior change is very difficult to appreciate. The progress monitoring and the recommendations were really appreciated by users because we even include not only recommendations like steps and so on, but other recommendations like, I don't know, for example, I remember one that it was just try to open the door with if you are on the right, just try open the door with the left-hand side. So it just need your time to think about it before open the door, and this just make to activate your mental status. This was also a handicap we have because initially we start using a secondary telephone in order to use just for the trials, and this was not good because they really just want to use their primary mobile phone for everything, and this was also changed along the trials. And as I say, the pandemic situation was also a drawback we have along the project. But even though with this, we managed to have this 25% of increase in behavior change for the users. And in concrete, in the case of Spain, 25% of the users continue using WellCO even after the project. So they remain with the devices, so they continue using the application, and they even have requests because we have received requests because they have problems with the battery and so on. So they are still continue using the application. So this for us is a success in the project. That's all. If you have any question or any comment. Or no question or comment.
Thank you very much for the presentation. I have a few questions that I'd like to ask you if no one else has a question at the moment.
I have a question, sorry, can I?
Yes, of course.
Hi, hello. First of all, congratulations on the presentation, it was great. And I really liked the co-creation part where you explained how you did it. But my main question was regarding the first part of the development of the app. So when on the validation, you did a lot with the users, but on the co-creation, how did you integrate them?
So I don't know, Marga, do you want to answer or?
Breakfast is here. I can explain
thank you.
of users from the very beginning. Okay, we recruit users through organization, social organization, they are present in the territory. They organize leisure activities or training activities for the users in rural areas, so they get to know before all these users, so they could recruit people that they have idea they could be interested in the proposal. And furthermore, we make training sessions to use the devices, for example. That was very interesting for them because they had the opportunity to meet each other and to share experiences, etc. So these training sessions in a leisure activities place, which is from the municipality, it's interesting for them to meet, to ask questions, to see the person who is in the territory, like guiding all these users if they have some questions, because the profile of the users is very different from places to places, from Denmark to Italy and Spain. If you compare, there are very different profiles. So in Spain, they were elderly people, less used in IT devices. So it was interesting to engage them from the very beginning with this mock-up, and later on with the first prototype, the second prototype. So they were giving us their impressions about what was functioning, what was not functioning so well. And this is the way to engage them.
Okay, thank you. I think that the training ideas are great. Thank you very much for your explanation.
Thank you very much for the question. Any other question right away? If not, so I have a question. So based on the experience of the pilots, were you or your team surprised by any of the findings from user interactions with the platform? Or has their feedback and data lead to changes or improvements in the platform?
Yes, there were a lot of improvements based on the recommendation. I would say that, as Marga said, it was we have very different trial sites, because, for example, in Denmark, they were younger people. For example, the problem we have is we really need to develop it in iOS, because Denmark people were only having iOS Apple mobiles, and they were already used to get this kind of applications and so on. So it was very difficult to provide, for example, from Italy or Spain, where they were not so used to this kind of ICT, and they were also, for example, not used to the smartwatch and so on. So it was really different profiles. So the feedback, I will say, we received from the Danish user is not the same that in the case of Spanish and Italy. In fact, I will say that the Spanish and the Italian users were the ones that provide better feedback, and they were more likely to use longer the application, and they provide really good feedback in general terms, because at the end they say, okay, I don't like this, so I prefer to have this, I am not feeling motivated by this. For example, we have problems, let's say, for example, for the recommendations, because in some cases they were big tests, and they don't want to read too much text, so they prefer like short recommendations, just because, as you know, we have research people in the project, so the recommendations said, I don't know, based on the methodology used by whatever, this better that you do, and the people say, okay, I don't want to know where is this based, I just want to know the recommendation, so just keep it short and just allow me. So yes, I think it was very interesting that in the Italian and Spain, the recruiters and the people really in contact with the users, with people that, as Marga said, they already know the users. So this was easier. So they already have a relationship before starting with the pilot trials. So it was easier with them to really explain how they would like to see it, what are their needs, because they already know each other. And also we take into consideration, as I say, the life plan, which is a kind of questionnaires that also allow, I think, the users to feel that WellCO is really taking care of them. It feels more closer to us. So I think it was really good, and the validation methodology follow provide really good results, even taking into consideration this COVID situation that was not easy.
Thank you very much for the answer. So I have another question. So is it expected that innovations such as WellCO will eventually be able to reach market level? Are there plans in this regard, and how could they be implemented in the future?
Yes, I mean, this is something we are currently working in. At the end, I think really in order to reach the market, you need to maybe remove some part of the more research level, or let's say the lowest tier level. And with this come with a solution. Also, that we have the problem, well, let's see the challenge that it was in different languages, and this is so we are thinking of having just for the market launch in 2 languages instead of going ahead with let's say, done is that this was really a big challenge for the natural language processing. It was very difficult, and also in other languages. So yes, we are in plans to go ahead with this.
Thank you very much. Do you have any further questions? No? Okay. So in that case, thank you so much, Immaculada, for your great, amazing presentation. Then I'll move on to the following presentation with Clotilde and Laura. And thank you again very much. And you can start presenting now. Thank you.
Thank you. So hi everyone, and thank you for the invitation to this webinar. I am Laura Guérin. I'm European Project Officer working at Gérontopôle Nouvelle-Aquitaine in France. And I'm here with my colleague Clotilde Berghe, who's Head of Promotion of Jobs and Training at Gérontopôle. And today we'll present you I-MANO, a program that stands for Innovative Management and Organization, and it is aimed at home care services managers to improve the quality of services delivered to the elderly. But before Clotilde introduces you to I-MANO, I just want to take a couple of minutes to present our region, our context, and our structure. So Nouvelle-Aquitaine, as you can see, it's the region in the southwest of France. This is the largest region in France and the oldest as well, with 31% of the population that is 60 or over. And regarding our topic today, there are about 38,000 employees working for about 500 home care services. And there are more than 900 nursing homes in the region. And finally, you see this little logo on the top of the slide, a blue logo, sorry. Our region is recognized as active and healthy aging reference site at European level. Now about Gérontopôle Nouvelle-Aquitaine. So just to let you know, there are 9 Gérontopoles in France, and depending on the region, they might have different types of organizational missions. But in Nouvelle-Aquitaine, Gérontopôle is the regional organization that federates stakeholders for active and healthy aging. And our mission is to bring partners together, to boost research, to highlight initiatives, innovate and support experimentation, and also to support economic development. And we, to do this, we work with a wide range of actors. We are a public interest group with more than 200 members. Our founding members and main funders are the Regional Health Agency representing the state, and also the Regional Council of Nouvelle-Aquitaine. And as you can see, we work with local authorities, with the universities, with hospitals and nursing homes, with businesses. And very important, we work also with user associations, as Gérontopôle is a living lab. So these are the 7 different groups of actors that we involve. The Gérontopôle has 5 areas of action: support to research, innovation, public policies and territories, and Europe. We have a Europe unit, and we're involved in several European projects. And last but not least, the promotions of jobs and training. And this is within this 5th area of action that Gérontopôle has developed I-MANO, this program that we are coordinating. And I will give the floor to Clotilde to present this program.
Sorry. Thanks, Laura. So to begin this presentation, I would like to share with you some information about the context of the home care sector in France. So we count more than 7,000 home care services, which look after 760,000 elderly people. And so to deliver these services, the home care services can operate with different models. At first, the service providers, these services employ professionals who go to beneficiaries at their home, and the service provider is paid by beneficiaries to employ these professionals. The second is mandated services. These services can help elderly people who would like to be helped with the administrative procedures, but these elderly people remain the employers of professionals. And third possibility, everyone can employ people by themselves, and there is a digital platform to help them for the recruitment and the administrative procedure. In our case, our I-MANO program targets service providers, which could be non-for-profit organizations, organizations of the public sector, or of the profit-making sector. So why do we develop this program? In 2018, in France, we are facing by a big crisis in this sector, especially an attractiveness crisis due to the problematic to recruit people to be home carers. And moreover, the COVID period strengthened this problem like never before. We also face an economic crisis because the fundings of home care services don't allow to provide the necessary quality of service because funds are very low to cover the reality of the cost of this sector. So we make the assumption that the quality of services is based on the quality of career paths, which is based on the quality of management. And throughout this program, we take the challenge to act on regain meaning and motivation at work. So our aim is to act on 3 levels. So improve the quality of service, quality of work, economical performance of home care services, and at the end to contribute to a greater sustainability of the home care sector. So this program was structured and coordinated by ourselves, the Gérontopôle, thanks to the support of our regional council, of a social protection body, of a retirement fund, and thanks to state-approved bodies for supporting vocational training. And the total budget is 650,000 euros. So now I will present you the different steps of our program, which has been implemented for 2.5 years. This program is structured in 4 steps. The first is awareness raising to allow managers to choose the approach which is the most adapted to their professional and personal history, their experience, and adapted to their services and their organization. Because at the level of the Gérontopôle, we consider that we can't decide for managers and organizations which kind of approach is the most adapted to each of them. So we decide to raise awareness and present to managers 6 different approaches, innovative managerial and organizational innovations that I will detail later. 21 different services apply to a program and 19 services follow this first step. The second step, we suggest a maturity assessment to analyze the gap between the manager's project and the reality of the practice before beginning the training of all the professionals. So this assessment has been realized by independent consultants with the objective that they don't influence the choice of the approach, but only realize this maturity assessment. It has been done thanks to interviews of managers and representatives of different stakeholders of the organizations. The next step was to provide a collective training to all of the 14 services which success the assessment, maturity assessment. And so each services mobilize a change team composed of the manager, the middle management, and by home care professionals. This training, this third step, gathers change teams of different services which choose the same approach. We realized that this step was very helpful for teams to exchange on difficulties, first step, success stories between different services. So that was very important to gather these different services. And we also realized that when people of change teams participate together in trainings, it strengthens their connection, between managers, middle management, and field professionals. And finally, the fourth step is an internal training to help each service to drive change in its organization in all the practice. A large number of professionals, it was 140, most of that have been trained, and this facilitates the implementation of the change. And we are currently implementing this step. In parallel, since 2020, thanks to the crisis and the lockdown, we launched earlier a community to share practices, difficulties, and solutions experimented by the managers in their managerial and organizational transformation. And since the beginning, we organized about 20 meetings of the community, online or in physical meetings, and we set up recently a community with middle management representatives, and not only with managers, because this middle management is really involved in this transformation and need to share between them. So in this community, we involve not only the 14 managers following the I-MANO program, but also 2 other managers who began their transformation earlier, and also new managers who are starting the process of change. And we also set up a research work with the recruitment of a sociology student who is doing her PhD on sociology on the I-MANO program. And she will also realize a social impact assessment of I-MANO, and results will be available during the first semester of 2023. So I will now detail the 6 different approaches that we present to managers of home care services. This first approach that we chose is the shared governance, which is based on redistribution of power and responsibilities and using some collective intelligence tools. So no structure chose this approach, but we will find some aspect of its philosophy and tools in some of the other approaches. For example, in this approach, we find some tools to decide by consent, to elect someone without candidate, and so on. The second approach is based on the different aspects of the quality of life at work, by, for example, the definition and the content, the health at work, the gender equality, skills and professional evolution, participative management, relation at work. So 2 structures chose this approach, one public and the other is a non-profit organization. And for example, one of them is working on the improvement of the internal communication by creating an internal newsletter, which is realized by different professionals of the service, and that creates more conviviality and connection between professionals. The third approach is Montessori. It's inspired by the approach with the same name for children, but here it is rather used for beneficiaries who will be considered with their preserved capacities. And the second target of this approach is employers. This approach gives them the right to make mistakes, and this approach enables them to be empowered and to increase their autonomy. Help me to do alone was one of the maxims of Maria Montessori, and it could be appropriate for elderly people, but also for employers. The lean management is often well known, is often well known, but perhaps with a bad image. But this approach is based on the recognition of the expertise of field professionals. The experts are on the field, is often said, but based also on a problem-solving approach where field professionals are involved. And this approach aims to develop a learning organization. So for example, it is really fulfilling to be considered when they share a problem, and then when they are involved in the problem solving, they can see that their speech is taken into account. This approach uses also the visual management with a lot of indicators put on a flip chart and collectively monitored, and this contributes to an improvement of internal communication. So the 5 approach is Berserk. It's a name of a Dutch company which developed a model based on the autonomy and the close relationship between nurses and patients. In the Netherlands, the model targets nurses, but in France, some organizations have developed a similar approach for home care services. They aim to develop small autonomous teams, 6 to 8 people, who organize themselves, their planning, the recruitment, and considering that they have a lot of skills. And the middle management develops a coach approach to be at their service and help them in daily tasks. This approach is based on a big work on internal communication and training on respectful communication. And then the 6th approach is a collaborative organization. It uses some aspects of the previous approaches, and it is very much based on the collective definition of the main goal of the structure and on a collective intelligence. So to conclude, some first lessons that we can share with you regarding the 2 years of experimentation and while waiting for the results of our social impact assessment. So at the beginning, I said that we organized awareness raising activities for managers on 6 different approaches. But now I prefer that they can choose between 6 different entry points, because all of them aim to act on the increasing recognition of field professionals, on collective intelligence, on increasing power to act. And we can currently see that some services which choose one of these approaches are asking us now to be trained on another approaches, and all of them are really complementary. The challenge is also to currently engage all of the teams of the home care services and to maintain their engagement in the daily life. And this requires to carry on training, because we saw at the beginning managers who shared with us that it was difficult to involve their teams which were not trained. After the 3rd step of collective training with change teams, the change team told us that it was difficult to engage the rest of the team without training. Now they tell us it is easier because most people are trained. But the difficulty is now to carry on the new practices when trainers aren't here, because the daily tasks come back. This way is not easy because it challenges the organization, the distribution of the roles of each other, but we already see the effects on engagement, on involvement, and on the meaning of the work. For example, professionals feel dare to suggest some new activities with elderly people. They are involved to participate to workshop, and they became a force of proposal. So a new way forward is taking shape. So hope my speech was clear enough, and I'm available for your question.
Thank you so much, Clotilde and Laura, for your presentations. Okay, so anyone has any direct questions already? Okay, so I have a few questions to ask you. So my first question is, what are the plans, the future plans for development of I-MANO, even after the project is completed?
So we are waiting for the social impact assessment, and after we are discussing with a national organization to realize a swarming kit to help other regional territory or the organization to organize these types of program, because the specificity of our program is really that we suggest 6 different approaches to change the organization. So it's interesting to organize a collective program, because there is a lot of share and exchange between different directors and managers. And so it's very interesting when it's regional level who set up these types of programs. So we hope that we could realize this swarming kit for the end of the first semester 2023.
Thank you very much. So we have a question in the chat. The question is, who is going to finance this project after the funding ends?
Yes, thanks for the questions. It's really difficult to find currently some funds to set up these chains, but we have some organizations that can fund. I would like to. It's so retirement funds help to. They work on professional risk, and so sometimes they found this kind of methodology. But we also put a program with training, because in France we have the state approved bodies for supporting vocational training, which can found these types of model. But now we also discuss with our national agents is the CNSA for the autonomic transformation. And so maybe in the future they could found these types of transformation, but it's very, very expensive. And it's not in one time, it's a very long period to set up this transformation. And I-MANO program for the 14 organization which is involved in this program, or PhD say that it's only the beginning of the transformation. It's not the complete transformation which is done, but very only the beginning.
Thank you very much. Okay, thank you very much, Laura, also for the question. The answer. The second question I was going to ask was the one from Mervis regarding the presentation, and that this model could also be used in Finland, which is something very interesting. And if you have publications or planning to release soon. So Laura already gave a response to this, sending a link with the projects and some files on the project that you can find at Gérontopôle -NA.fr/leprojet/I-MANO, just to be sure that everyone can access it. Not sure if the comments are going to be...
It's only French publication for the moment.
Okay.
And maybe we will be very interesting to exchange with other country which try to transform home care sectors. So for us, maybe later when we have the social impact assessment, we could translate them to diffuse more in Europe the results.
That was going to be also my second question, was if you think that I-MANO could be implemented in other European Union countries, maybe if not all the program, do you think specific elements could be scaled up, and if so, which ones?
Yeah, sure, because our program is it's really to take 6 different approach and to train people about this different approach. So I think that every country can do that, because we were inspired with the Dutch company Buurtzorg, and so in the same, I'm sure that the country can do this program. I'm sure that in Europe, home care services meet the same difficulty to recruit some people. So I think that it's also a new way for society to recognize expertise from field professionals. So I think that it's a way that lots of countries can take, and we will really happy to exchange and to share our experience on that, to facilitate the swarming on other countries.
Thank you very much. So we have another question, this one from Sophia. So do you provide managers with criteria for them to choose the governance approach, or do they do it freely? And if so, what do you think are the things that they take into consideration?
Okay. No, if I understand the question, we don't take some criteria to choose. We make this awareness raising at first. So it was one day. All of trainers organize one day to raise awareness of managers on the approach. So managers, and I organize a daily book, or a week book. So at the end of the day of the train, the managers should write why this approach is interesting for them, what they have like, dislike, what is appropriate for the organization, to help them to think about that. And during the 6 days, so one day per approach, they think about it, and often they ask me, I'm very interested by this approach. I never give my opinion. And what is really interesting for me is that the 14 services choose very different approach. Only governance, shared governance wasn't a choice, but all the others were a choice. And by different types of organization, the non-profit organization, the public sector, and the private for-profit organization choose the same approach sometimes. And even if they was little or big, there is no criteria to choose this type or another type of approach. So I think it's really dependent of the history, the experience professional of the manager. It's also the relationship between the trainers and the managers, because it's the feeling also. So I think there is no criteria, and all these approaches are complementary. So I think it's not a problem if you choose Lean or Buurtzorg or Montessori. What is the most important is to take time with the teams to think about the vision, the new way to have relation, to communicate, and to exchange in the structure, and to consider with a new look the field professionals.
Thank you very much, Clotilde, for the question. Also, thank you from Sophia, who made the question. Okay, so I would ask the public also if you have further questions to ask the speakers of now. If not, I have some general questions to ask for both speakers. The first one would be, how do you think that platforms such as Futurium could be useful for network organizations and projects, and in the field of active and healthy aging or living?
Did you want to start, Inma? Or
Sure. Thank you.
I would say that this is very important for experience sharing. That's how we use it at Gérontopôle, to identify other initiatives, to identify other projects or networks. I would say that's the main way we use it.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Marga, I don't know if you want to.
The platform is always interesting because, for example, in our case, we are applying for different call for proposals in different programs, and always innovation, not only through the European projects, but also because, for example, we have received a lot of funds from the Next Generation funding. And we use, for example, all these best practices and also some other projects that we were successful in to make, for example, the public procurement of innovation projects, or to try to replicate or try to get information, further information about some innovations, because although later on we try to put into practice through sometimes through public procurement or these other projects that we are implementing right now through the as mentioned before, the Next Generation funds. So it's always very interesting.
Thank you very much. So I have a second question online with this one, which is if, besides best practice months, what other promotion activities have you been engaged to publicize your innovation?
I leave the floor to Inma. Anyway, I can contribute also how we disseminate these results. For example, we are part of the European Social Network, so which is a organization at like an umbrella organization at EU level for the sector in which we work for in social services. And so every time that there's a networking opportunity there, so we try to exchange with other regions in Europe these kind of innovations, because later on there is closer contact with other regions to try to know how they implement all these innovations. And so through these events, EU events, or even, as mentioned, through the new funding that we receive because we launch procurement calls, or also we disseminate because we are active in social networks, the project officers or the organization indeed. So let's say we take advantage of all of these events in which we participate with other regions, not only in Spain, but also at EU level, to try to communicate, to disseminate, and to see which kind of parts, as you mentioned before, which parts can be replicated or adopted by other regions in different scale. And also, for example, this training, these pilots, these trials that we implemented at a small level here in our region, how to implement it in larger level afterwards.
Thank you very much. Laura, do you want to also answer?
Yeah, so it's just to understand, the question was how we use this information on Futurium and these events and how we disseminate them, right? So yeah, but I agree with what you just said. We have this role in our region to filter and to do to share all this information to our members and all the active and healthy aging players in the region. So we have this newsletter that we publish twice a year with a selection of innovative projects from the region or from Europe on this topic. We also include call for proposals or events. So Futurium is in this way a very important resource of information for us. And also to when we take part in projects or to build consortiums or and so on, that's also a very important source of information. So thank you for this organization.
Yeah, thank you for the event also, because it's an opportunity for the project coordinators or the project implementers to see other experiences and to have the opportunity to share our knowledge and our experience, our previous experiences. Yes, so congratulations for the organization of this kind of workshops also.
In the name of IN-4-AHA and Port4Aging, thank you also very much for all of you to participate in this discussion. Thank you to all participants. Clotilde, do you want to add something? Oh, okay. Thank you, Dan. Thank you all very much, and hope that you enjoyed the discussion, and hope to see you soon in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you so much.
Powering the innovation for active and healthy aging.